Yeah, I mean that's why we're working on forming a new party. Like I said, we're the thing we're doing with the Massachusetts candidates. It's like, do we want to form a new party? Do we want to join an existing party, or do we want to do a coalition with a bunch of parties? And that's where we're at because I'm not. I mean, I've been on the left for fucking like almost 20 years now, and it's just like we're always waiting for a mass party. Like if you're in the Trotskyist tradition, it seems like we have to sit and wait for the trade unions to call for a workers' party or a labor party, and then we're supposed to join, but we've been waiting and waiting and waiting. And the last time there was a labor party was in America, an actual effort, which was 1994. That was it after NAFTA. Not a coincidence. It was done in response to it. So when the unions in the Midwest, like when they knew some of them read the writing on the wall, realized the Democrats betrayed them, Bill Clinton betrayed them, the neoliberal ever started, there was a movement to do it. But long story short, that didn't work out. It was kind of gone maybe after a year, but waiting, and that's why I think a bunch of us are just like, maybe, we can start running candidates, I don't mind doing study groups all the time. I love doing study groups.
I've read Marx. I've read Engels. I've read Das Kapital.
The world is run by Trotskyists.
Hardcore Trotskyites.
How great an anti-American Marxist!
They're controlled by Trotskyists, as you put it, and these are the most evil, sick human beings on the face of the planet.
All right.
Okay, so Donald the Dove, is he ushering in peace in our lifetime?
Yeah. Why isn't he?
Obviously.
Yeah, I've heard Jimmy Dore say he's the anti-war candidate. So Jimmy Dore is a leftist, I think, right? Isn't he still? I haven't heard him in a few years. Has he changed?
Yeah, it's the anti-war ethnic cleansing candidate.
Yeah. Well, it's like
Great
he
guy.
blew up the people,
Yeah,
He's
right.
just cleaning up after Biden, blew up all the people in there. Yeah, but anyway. All right, Aaron. You got this video clip? I've been seeing this
Is Trump
talk
good?
over.
Is Trump good for destroying the American empire from within? Is this the accelerationist argument? Is this what it's?
Why not?
How many people are you thinking about?
All of them. I mean, we're talking about probably 1,000,007 people, 1,000,007, maybe 1,000,008. But I think all of them. I think they'll be resettled in areas where they can live a beautiful life and not be worried about dying every day.
What the fuck is wrong
So Trump
with
wants
this country?
He wants to deport every single Palestinian out of Gaza and probably presumably the West Bank too.
Biden had to crawl so Trump could run with the ethnic cleansing. I mean, this is what was it? Marion Edel, who's the big finance capital person? I can't think of her name, but she gave Trump like $200 million with the agreement that as long as you let Israel do whatever it's want, annex the West Bank and the Golan, annex it all, I'll give you $200 million. And this is, promises made to billionaires, promises kept by Trump. So congrats on engaging in goddamn ethnic cleansing, but this is just blatant. So,
I could have sworn that he was going to challenge Israel. Are you telling me the American Communist Party was wrong about Donald Trump? MAGA communism is not actually a way to advance the interests of the proletariat.
But MAGA is the proletariat, and
that's right. So, are you telling me that they're wrong? I thought Haas was a great con. That the party
man.
Never makes a mistake.
Oh my God! How is this? I mean, is the ACP
we'll
defending this? Okay, all right,
I'm just jumping in at this point. I just want to make fun of them. I like to punch down at people who are beneath me and who deserve it. And they do.
Oh yeah,
They really do.
The American. I'm not even calling them I think Ben and I were talking. They're not really a party either. The only thing is they're American. That's the only
the American chauvinist pigs. I don't know.
Yeah, that'd be ACP.
American chauvinist multi-level marketing scheme.
No, wait. American
The
chauvinist pigs in parentheses multi-level marketing.
Oh my God! My God, we got the MLM. Perfect. Holy God.
The bad kind of MLM.
Yep. This is the worst thing I've ever seen.
I'm sorry, I don't know what you guys have been talking about, but it's interesting.
We're just shooting the shit until
we're just shooting the shit. That's all.
U.S. policy with Palestine, there's always been this pretense about being even-handed, right? Even if they give all the guns to Israel and they don't give a shit.
Right.
And they've always and there's been like a semi-official commitment to like the two-state solution. And I think it was Tarek Ali who, I have my issues with him politically, but you know, he can make some good points here and there. And one point he made is that like a lot of what Trump is saying publicly is what a lot of these officials just believe privately. And I will admit, like the stuff about like the US taking over Gaza, that's like new, but I don't know like how serious that's gonna be or how like feasible it is to actually try and implement that. First of all, you'd expect like fierce resistance from the Palestinians there. But second of all, like it seems like every country like, you know, Jordan, Egypt is not going to get on board with that for various reasons. Granted, they didn't do super much to help the Palestinians since October 7th, but it's like, you know, to have ethnic cleansing like that open, it's just like, I don't know if it's just Trump just like suffering dementia at this point, or if there's some kind of rational kernel about it. But you know, that rhetoric is a bit new, just like all the shit with like Greenland and Canada. It's, but I mean, it's like horrifying, it's stupid, and like, where's it coming from at the same time?
Yeah. I mean, I'm with you. I mean, I don't know. I think it's just like, oh, we're just going to take it over. Like, I don't think he literally has a plan down, or I think he's just saying that because he just thinks, oh, we take it over and we're going to run it. Because all he's thinking about is the beautiful beachfront property. That's all he's thinking about. Like, this is just me. I'm going to go in. We're going to take some bulldozers and we're going to make some nice condos for everybody. All the rich Israelis can move in there. We can just push all the native people out of it. But I mean, if he thinks like U.S. troops are going to go in there and that's going to go over well, because even like, as Doug pointed out, like, you know, with Jordan and Israel, you know, and Egypt being right there, that's too far. That is way too far. That could inflame, like, obviously that'll spark up the war again. That will happen, definitely. But
it also goes to show, just on Gaza, though, on other things, like Trump, at least in 2016, was portrayed by a lot of his supporters. And even he kind of pushed it like this America First shit, like isolationist, even though he was still assassinating foreign officials, trying to overthrow like Maduro and that kind of shit. But at least in terms of rhetoric, and I think I don't know how serious a lot of this is. Like this time, it's like making Canada the 51st state and shit, like the U.S. like taking over Gaza. This is shit like out of Watchmen or a bad playthrough of Hoi 4 or something. And because it's like, yeah, it's like you're actually talking about like taking over territory. And it's like, where the fuck is this Greenland shit coming from? Yeah. Like, what is this? And the fact that there are people in the government voting to like give him like authority to buy Greenland and rename it Red, White, and Blue Land. Who the fuck is like? This is like something like a 6-year-old would do.
Yeah.
It's not even a clever name.
No, it's like it's so dumb. Again, it's like a 6-year-old would come up with that.
Land.
Yeah. Like when I played Civilization 2 when I was like 13, I used to do stuff like that. I pick like a funny name and go with like the Gulf of America. Like this is the dumb shit we're doing right now, Gulf of America. And like some right winger at my job was like, hey, look, that map is wrong. It's supposed to be Gulf of America. And like no one laughed. First of all,
like you can't, like no one's going to recognize that except Trump.
Right.
Like that's like done internationally. And it's also like the fact that like Google actually changed the name on the map. Like I saw someone post like a shot on their Twitter. I'm like, wait, is that true? And I went onto my Google Maps and I'm like, it was true.
Yeah, I know.
It was like, first of all, it's like really stupid. It's like, it's like the most empty, dumb symbolism in the world. It doesn't affect your life at all. The fact it's like wasting time on something. It's like, you know, it's like getting invested in like the worst TV show in the world or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, it's like we've said before, though. It's this culture war stuff that's really the only thing that they have to give to their little minions. And it's like, it's just like little crap like that to make them feel like, oh, we're doing something. It's like, it's fucking totally irrelevant. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we're just like, you know, like people still don't have health care. People are like, we're having measles outbreaks. And now we got Robert F. Kennedy now coming to power. Like
tuberculosis.
That man is a moron. Polio. I mean, it's like putting Al Capone in charge of the Justice Department. I mean, granted, like the people in charge of the Justice Department are all pigs anyway, but they at least normally try and maintain a pretense. Right. Robert F. Kennedy doesn't belong anywhere near like any form of medicine. He's a moron who's had his brain eaten away. The fact that he thinks like vaccines cause autism and all this stupid like he's literally on that hippie to fascism pipeline with that kind of. And people are going to die because of his moronic takes. You know, it's the same thing if you were to put Benny Hinn or some idiot faith healer in charge. You know, they're all like, that's not science.
Yeah.
You know,
I got a
and
witch
I feel
doctor here.
worried because like I have family who are about to have kids in the near future. And it's like,
dude,
I don't want them to have to deal with like, you know, doctors who are going to say, don't get vaccinated against like this. No, I'm sorry. If you don't believe in vaccinations, like RFK, you are a fucking danger to public health. And vaccines only work if they're actually enforced as a measure of public health for everyone, unless you have an actual medical condition that prevents you from getting one. And that's the reason why everyone else is vaccinated, so we don't have to deal with this shit. And any country, like you don't even have to be socialist, will recognize that you do this. Not talking like Cuba or something, but like Germany or Greece or something, that they get people vaccinated because they're not morons. And they don't put morons in charge of things like public health.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like,
I've heard talk that, like, I don't know how official this is, but I've heard talk about fucking banning vaccines. I'm like, if this happens, I'm just gonna have to leave. Like, I can't fucking live here.
Yeah. What if I step on a rusty nail? You know, like, I mean, when is what level of stupidity are we stopping at with this stuff?
I mean, like Reagan consulted an astrologer.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah. I mean, but the astrologer wasn't running the show. You know, like it was just a consultant, not like.
Know, there were actually semi-competent people in like the first Trump administration, like Fauci. I'm not saying they were good people, but they weren't like morons.
Right. They understood how germs worked.
And, you know, granted, like the COVID measures and like to deal with the pandemic were always inadequate in the U.S. But, you know, there was, at least for a little bit, they actually did try and take it somewhat seriously until like all the morons wanted to go to Applebee's and everything like that. But now they're going to, like, assuming like another pandemic happens, like, and it's, again, I don't think it's beyond the realm of possibility. This just happened like within the last few years.
It might be starting now.
It might be starting now. You're going to have people at the highest
control.
Levels who believe in stupidity and think that, you know, we don't need to have vaccines or public health because they're idiots.
Yeah. I mean, I have a lot of people that I unfortunately have to talk to, and like there's a slogan. And when I ask about Robert F. Kennedy, they just repeat a slogan, make America healthy again. Well, yeah, that sounds great. That doesn't mean anything. Like, well, what is he doing to make America healthy? And yes, you can say that there's a bunch of shit in the food that shouldn't be in there. I agree. Like, there is, like, you can point out there is some shit in the food. We have way more chemicals and stuff in American food. And that's true. You're right. You got that right. But the other shit, like, we're gonna ban polio vaccines. Like, we figured this out in like 1954 that like defeating polio is a worthy goal and we should be vaccinated, because not getting your kid vaccinated when they can is a form of child abuse. Child abuse is defined as the willful or neglectful abandonment of a child. That's what you're doing when you're, you know, that's why we're having measles outbreaks, TB. Like, it's insane how bad it's getting.
He's also a dipshit who doesn't even want fluoride in the water. This is something that was satirized in like Doctor Strangelove.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
satirized for good reason, because it was a crank idea then. And it's like it has like positive health benefits. There's no downside to it. There's no downside to vaccines, you know, once they go through the proper testing and all of that. It's a net benefit. You know, it's like, I don't know, it's like saying the wheel is a bad thing. And maybe there's going to be some more like moron they'll put in charge of the transportation department. We'll say that.
Well,
I don't
Doug,
know.
you know, people get killed by cars which are on wheels.
That's
you know?
true. And you know,
I'm just saying, now you're pro wheel.
I remember
they're going to rip up all the subways and then replace them with Elon Musk hyperloops.
Do you remember when FDR or RFK did that fucking thing with the food, and he was talking about red dyes and whatever, and he had all the food out on the table and shit, and I was like, okay, so none of that's going to happen. So it's just going to be the crazy shit when you're in office, because there's no fucking way. Like, he's not going in there to take on Kraft and shit. There's no way. Are you kidding me? It's like Elon Musk with the fucking Department of Government Efficiency. And it's like, I'm sorry. Are we looking at the defense contracts that SpaceX gets?
No, we're not looking at those
contracts. No way.
Those are different, right? Like the military, which has probably tens, if not hundreds of billions of dollars of unaccounted money, fraud, deceit, Boeing, all of the military industrial complex, right? Mismanaged and everything. And they're not going to look at, instead they're going to like look at, oh, did your grandparents get extra medication? Well, that's like we're looking at that, not the Boeing, which builds shit all the time.
Or they're looking at NASA now, I guess. That's the new thing. And
that really broke my heart, man. Like that's the one government thing that I would die for NASA.
Yeah, it's like they're already outsourcing most shit to fucking SpaceX.
Yeah,
right. That's true. Yeah,
right. And now it's just gonna they got to take the whatever scraps are left on the table for NASA.
Fun fact, real quick, is Mitch McConnell was the only Republican to vote against RFK from being nominated or voted in or whatever.
Sickest man alive.
He's not anti-medicine in his whole rotten life.
Yeah,
stinky scum. But
welcome to the resistance, Mitch McConnell. he's probably going to run as a Democrat in 2028, and you're just an absolute fascist enabling scumbag if you don't vote for him.
Yeah. Yep. And I guess I'm reading right here. Alex Jones will be the new press secretary, according to the chat. So we're
sure,
no,
why not? Why not?
Why not? Why we've gone like the fact you had to think about it for a second is how sad things are. That like, yeah, I know. At first, I'm like, wait, maybe because.
But don't worry, guys, because Hakeem Jeffries is out on CNN.
Okay, House Minority Leader. All right, I'm looking forward to it. So finally, we can rally around the flag, and how are we going to defeat Trump? All right, take it away, Hakeem Jeffries. Here we go.
Let's hear it.
I'm trying to figure out what leverage we actually have. What leverage do we have? They control the House, the Senate, and the presidency. It's their government. What leverage do we have?
There you go.
I want you to resign. I want you to resign. I want you to get in your car.
Throwing his hands up and he's like, "No, what are we gonna do? What's the plan?"
That's nothing. Just Democrats in a nutshell.
There we go. You know what that should be? What do you want us to do? 2028. There you go.
It was incredible. These guys sat back and watched. Again, I don't like not to defend Obama and Mitch McConnell, but they watched Mitch McConnell run circles around Obama for 8 years. For 8 years. Because they understood the nature of power. And like imagine if we even had like a remotely left-ish president who recognized this power and could actually wield it for something half decent. Instead, this guy's like, well, nothing we can do.
The truth of the matter is, if you go back to the first Trump term, there was no resistance at all, not from the Democrats in any level. They all voted for Trump policies. The most they would do would be like these empty symbolism things, like Nancy Pelosi would rip up a piece of paper and then give Trump's like hundreds of billions of dollars for the military. AOC would cry about ICE and then vote for it. These people, like the only thing they really didn't like about Trump, and it's still true now, is like the lack of decorum. Right. The fact that he's like, he is a more crass and
or the fact that like
and everything
Trump
like that.
Trump's 1% worse than Biden on everything. Like not like even remotely talking about occupying Gaza would not be possible without Biden and the 15 months of genocide and hundreds of billions of dollars and like multiple atomic bombs worth of ordnance being dropped onto starving toddlers.
Right. And we
pay. And the thing, the Democrats, like, they're not going to fight Trump because they fundamentally agree with him. They disagree more on the means about how he wants to get to places. The thing they will fight, and if they're actually very good at fighting, is any upsurge from below, from the working class, from oppressed peoples and communities. Right. They will be very vicious doing that, and they will not hesitate to use like the most brutal force against that, because that's what they're there for. The fact
Doug, like there's resistance by Chuck Schumer and other 98-year-olds. shaking their canes in the air, blocking an office,
literally shaking their cane,
saying we will win.
I mean, they had like some Democratic like Zoom call within the last 2 weeks, I think it was, and they were talking about doing street protests. I'm like, yeah, sure. right?
Oh wow, yeah.
They're not going to do shit.
No,
And I
they're
will
not.
tell you right now, and I think this sounds like almost ad nauseum at this point, but it's true. Any movement at any level that attaches that like welcomes the Democrats, and they've lost in advance. And you could tell that. There was a piece that was recently published by the Social Democratic Journal in these times, which sucks anyway. But it's like it was something by someone from the labor movement. I forget which union. And they're talking about fighting Trump, building a workers' united front, and that sounds good until they get to the part. Oh, we got to support these liberal Democrats. No, then you lost right there.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
Yo,
this is why we read history, why we know the Popular Front is a dead end up and down the line. And you tie yourself to them, you're going to be playing by their rules, and their rules are not designed to make workers win. They're designed to, co-opt workers and help the liberal bourgeoisie win. And I've grown up in a Democratic family. Part of my radicalization was completely breaking with that. And I think we should have no tolerance for it. And we should kick those people out of our movements completely. Yeah. Democrats should be treated like the traitorous scum that they are. They're not comrades in struggle. They're enemies to be defeated.
I completely agree, Doug. And that's why I was shocked and really disappointed. I guess I shouldn't be surprised. Will Menaker over at Chapel Trap House retweeted a thing by Zoran Kwame Mamdani. This is a name that's been floating around. He's a Democratic socialist.
A DSA guy.
So a Democrat.
Chapel Trap House has built their podcast over the last 8 years, shitting on Democrats correctly.
But they also were like pretty pro Sanders, and he's a Democrat.
And these guys are like, make sure you register as a Democrat so you can vote in this guy in the primary. And I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, this is your entire brand is shitting on these guys. And like you have absolutely zero faith in this party, and you still want people to vote for them and join them. It's like wild to me.
Like they cucked you twice. Once was in 2016 and then 2020. How many, we'll just get the dirty hotel and the cuck chair for them to sit in, and they can watch this shit happen over and over again. It's the same goddamn result. Will, what the fuck? Really? Really, Will? God, don't meet your heroes, folks. Yeah. Don't ever meet me. I'll fuck up probably. And if I am your hero, get better heroes. That's all I'm saying. But god damn. Oh, what is happening to us?
So the only thing Democrats will push back on is the dismantling of so Chuck Schumer goes on live TV and says, they're taking away, federal agents food out of their mouths of the families of cops. And
that's not really what they do, USAID.
And I mean, like Chuck Schumer went on TV and said, Trump is defunding the police. Of all the things Trump is doing right now, they're trying to get people riled up.
It's
incredible. Another program,
the worst timeline.
And so, but one of the major points of focus for the Democrats, and something that's been quite interesting is I love this phrase is the USAID imperialist Trojan horse goes in the wood chipper. Describing it as a Trojan horse is so perfect.
Chris, it is a great way to do it. Yep.
You wanted to check out this article for the stream.
Yeah.
You had one more thing to say, and then we'll dive in.
Yeah, it's okay. Go ahead.
Okay.
All right. So this article, which I really, really liked, because, right now everyone's talking about USAID. A lot of my liberal coworkers are very upset, and I have a quote here that I do like. USAID is a foreign policy tool with bipartisan origins that is critical in this dangerous global environment.
That's the magic word.
Hey, gutting it means gutting our ability to compete and keep America safe. And that is from a New Jersey Senator, Andy Kim, who actually used to work for USAID. But don't worry, if you want another shitty quote, we have one. Elon Musk, the richest man in the world, is dismantling USAID, which feeds the poorest children on earth. This is oligarchy at worst. That is from Bernie Sanders. Also, Bernie Sanders, who just voted to confirm the most neocon you can get, Marco Rubio, Secretary of State,
yes, he did.
Utterly represents the real purpose of USAID. He and other Democrats are defending a tool of the U.S. imperialist meddling. The sudden funding crisis faced by this, quote, independent media outlets and so-called civil society groups in many countries are now exposing this as fact. Just a little background that USAID was founded in 1961 by JFK, quote, to counter influence from the former Soviet Union and during the Cold War, according to the Miami Herald, and has been long since linked to the CIA. According
Ask
to a leak,
not what your country can steal from you. what we can steal from your country.
I mean, yeah. And frankly, USAID, it's a reprehensible institution with no redeeming value whatsoever. Anything connected to the CIA, it's like being connected to the Waffen-SS. And they should be viewed the same. They bring murder, they bring despotism, and they defend private property from workers and the oppressed. And frankly, there's no redeeming value to the USAID, and anyone who's defending it is frankly an idiot. And beyond that, though, the U.S., it looks like a lot of what this is really not getting rid of USAID, but probably like siphoning it off to like a different government branch and like reorganizing it basically. So it's not like the US is going to get rid of like these repressive agencies at all, but they certainly, it looks like they're being reorganized.
Yeah. See, and that's sorry, go ahead.
And I guess just to point this out, it's like, it basically going to take a proletarian revolution to really get rid of these institutions. And if you're actually wasting your time, like defending like this reprehensible institution with these people with its employees who should actually face some kind of war crimes tribunal after the revolution, you really are a moron and you're an enemy. And frankly, there's so much more going on, like, defending against ICE, these worker fightbacks. That's actually like, if you actually want to fight back, that's what you fight back on.
Yeah, not a word from Democrats about the unions for federal employees who are trying to, fight for their jobs.
No, haven't heard about them. No, but this is the stuff. And also another article point out, there's a lot of great points here, but according to a leaked memo, USAID funded 6,200 journalists, 707 non-state news outlets, and 279 media sector civil society organizations in 2023. For instance, 90% of Ukrainian media reportedly survives on grants, mostly from USAID. So that's it, 90%. Like the Azov Battalion's PR firm is getting my tax dollars. I can't get fucking the roads fixed around here. The trains are falling apart. But, the Azov Battalion has someone up there saying how great they are. They're the ultra-nationalists. We don't use Nazi, but the ultra-nationalists in Ukraine. But now they're all pissed off at Trump about this, which now I think what I really think is why, I think they're doing this. I think there's not much thought that goes into it because, a lot of these groups that get their funding have this kind of liberal identity politics to it. There's a lot of that going on with it. And because the cult is so brainwashed to think that all USAID does, like I had someone at work telling me that there's a black character in their video game, and that's because of USAID. And it's like, holy crap. So I think there's honestly so many warped brains around like DEI and shit and anything DEI is AI. So I think they're shooting themselves in the foot because, and I think Doug would be right. Like a competent government would just ship the money around, but they're gutting this. And that's really helpful because these groups constantly undermined, the governments in Cuba, Venezuela, Nicaragua, all of these governments that are, anything that are moderately left wing, they're really helping us. They're not doing it out of because they're suddenly anti-imperialist. They're doing it because they think it's woke money doing shit.
Trump Maoist third worldist.
Yeah. No, they see line items like building a school in Afghanistan,
right? And they're like, that's
or
woke and
fixing
gay.
fixing a road in Iraq. The countries that you fucked up.
Right.
They see that as like the woke mob sending our tax dollars overseas.
Yeah.
And not
but this is something I wish I could point out to Trump supporters and be like, yo, if Trump is tearing up the deep state so much, why haven't we heard anything from the CIA? Why haven't they assassinated him?
The CIA's not losing anything yet.
What are they, shy now? Are they getting coy? Like, what the fuck are we doing?
So I'm still thinking about this quote from Bernie when he says, USAID feeds the poorest children on earth. And all I want to ask Bernie is, well, why are there poor children? Why can't these countries feed themselves?
They're only doing it. It's only in certain countries, though. Whoever votes for, if you look at the UN votes and who votes for America, that's who you see gets the USA. They're not doing it everywhere. This article did point out pretty smartly. Back during the I think the first Iraq War, Yemen voted against it. And let me just get that first quote because it was really well done. Let me see. Here it is. Historically, USAID has been deployed as a lever to force poor, aid-dependent countries to support Washington's agenda. For instance, a 2006 UN study proved that USAID support correlates with Security Council votes in line with U.S. policy. And when the Yemeni regime voted against the UN, against the U.S.-led intervention in the Gulf War, U.S. Ambassador Thomas Pickering walked over to the Yemeni ambassador and told him, "That was the most expensive no vote you've ever cast." Immediately, USAID ceased operations and funding in Yemen. It's conditional. They're only going to do help when you politically align with them. Not because, like, if you truly are charitable and you're helping everybody, but you vote against US, now we're not. See, that's not charity. That's
but
just
Samantha Powers said it was good.
No shit. My God, I know. So that's it. And most of this money doesn't even end up in these countries. It gets pilfered away. There's Marco, what did I say? Juan Guaido, he's beginning since 2020. Remember that loser? USAID gave him all this money, and it turned out he was blowing it on gambling, prostitution, corruption, and like buying land in Miami.
Sure, that's a way better use. That's a way better use than
yeah, because they weren't feeding poor people in Venezuela.
Support your local sex workers.
There you go. Hey, that's fine. But in Bolivia too, another one. There's another piece from the article. Bolivia, for instance, from 1996 to 2003, USAID awarded the sustainable development firm Chromonix a $15 million contract to implement a democratic development and citizen participation program in Bolivia to rally support for the pro-U.S. President Gonzalo Sanchez de Lozda. At the same time, it sought to undermine support for the movement towards socialism, the MAS party, from workers and peasants opposed to the exploitation of Bolivia's rich mineral reserves by international corporations. Following the 2006 victory of President Evo Morales in the MAS in Bolivia, the number of USAID-sponsored NGOs tripled from 600 to 2,000, and suddenly very interested in Bolivia's human rights and environmental records. Morales quite rightly kicked them out in 2013 for meddling in their affairs. Yep. This is what they do. Mexico has done it too.
And that's who Musk tweeted about when he said, "We can coup whoever we want."
Right. Yep. They said the quiet part loud.
Yeah. There's there's another point here that's very, very important to remember is when the New York Times says it, the quiet part out loud too. What worries the liberal wing of imperialism is not that people will suffer as a result of USAID being cut, but that America's enemies might benefit politically from seeking to step in to alleviate that suffering. And this was spelled out here in the New York Times. The fallout from the aid freeze is likely to reverberate geopolitically, giving American rivals like China a window of opportunity to present itself as a reliable partner. And they're like, oh my God. So we stopped funding all these media feel-good organizations around the world to trick people into thinking America isn't this fucking horrible, nightmarish empire with the jackboot on everyone's necks. Now they might see that, oh, wait, it actually is that. And China can swoop in and, extract resources, but at least they're building roads, schools, and hospitals in the meantime.
Yeah. I mean, this is what's happening with Ukraine when, their state media is like the USAID funded one. It's kind of like just like thinking like, in like Nazi Germany, April 1945, when some Nazis were like, oh no, we're going to beat the Soviets any minute. Like, we're going to turn the tide of the war, final victory. Like, it's just no one believes the Ukrainian media because it's USA funded propaganda that even I just read an article maybe a couple months ago saying that there's very little credibility in the Ukrainian state media because it's just bullshit the entire time. So yeah, but I really do believe they got high in their own supply about wokeness and all the other shit. And now they think they're gonna, because there's a black character in a video game, but now they're gonna get rid of USAID. So all right, and that rumor about Vosh, I've heard that rumor too. Has anyone heard anything else?
It's alleged. He was just,
that's all. Yeah.
He said his money got cut off on stream, and now he's desperate, and now he needs subscriptions and bits and whatever crap. At the same time that USAID was getting gutted. So that's the only. It's a tenuous connection.
That's a stretch.
I'm guessing that Jackson Hinkle is getting money from the CIA, not USAID.
Yeah, maybe.
How has he not been caught yet?
So speaking of this,
go ahead.
This I guess just happened. Trump is saying he might make an agreement with China and Russia to mutually draw down military budgets by 50%.
Really?
Yeah, I put it in the chat.
I'll believe that when I see it.
Yeah, I know.
I would say this though. I mean, Trump and all them, and I think Marco Rubio even alluded to this. The unipolar American hegemony is coming to an end, really.
Yeah.
The debt, I mean, like, I know it's eye-watering debt levels right now. I don't know what percent of our GDP is going to be towards debt repayment, but you can't run an empire forever like this. And eventually these bills have to get paid. And I think there is an understanding amongst them that they have to cut. America can't do this anymore. They blow, $2 trillion on Iraq and Afghanistan, billions going to Ukraine, billions. Meanwhile, your infrastructure is falling apart. This isn't going to actually keep working. This wouldn't surprise me. There is that sober analysis. They're they have to cut all this USAID shit because they can't do this anymore. The money is really drying up. It's bad.
Yeah. So
cutting taxes repeatedly over and over for rich people, I guess, didn't actually get rid of the deficit. Who knew? Wow.
Two more things to point out too is the CEO of Palantir. Is boasting how now has never been a better time to start investing in Palantir. They're this privatized intelligence gathering fucking organization. If they do gut and privatize intelligence and CIA, this is probably where they're going to go with.
Yeah, Palantir has a bunch of contracts in in Palestine and with Israel.
Yeah, these people are so fucking nuts and scary.
Now they're going to use it on us.
Oh, good. After the revolution, I'm glad it's going to be very easy to find all these names and lists everywhere. So that's great. Good.
And the article ends with this: unlike the frock-coated liberals and reformists, we communists do not mourn USAID. Let it go to the wood chipper. It is not the job of communists to lament the liberal institutions that Trump is demolishing, but rather to fight for their overthrow in a genuine socialist revolution. Not this palace revolution by a rival wing of the ruling class, as we are seeing with Trump. That's fantastic.
A great way to sum it up.
I'm reading Trotsky's History of the Russian Revolution. I just learned what a palace revolution was, and so that was good timing. So
I wish I could join one more study group, and I wish I could read that one, join that group, because I've been meaning to read that book forever. I hear it's good stuff, but that's the whole thing. We're happy it's happening. I just wish it was the proletarians who were doing it, the working class was destroying USAID.
Right.
That'd be So
because I would want members of the revolution to go in and fucking go through all the books and cut shitty programs and stuff, but it would be a different.
It's obviously because it's Trump doing this. It's not any sense emancipatory.
No, there's no national self-determination involved in cutting off all of this. There's no sharing of technology and technique and mutual benefits.
Yeah, so I think that the Trump admin is really just completely immune to the idea of soft power, and that's what a lot of this is. It's the only power that they understand that the empire has is the hard power, military stuff and just stuff like that. But anything that's soft power, they don't understand it, and that's why they just want to get rid of it. You know what I mean? In an interesting way, it'll probably make the empire weaker, but yeah, I agree with you. It's not any sort of thing to be celebrated, emancipatory or anything like that.
So we recently reached an agreement with Trump between Trudeau, Sheinbaum, and Trump. Trudeau agreed to create a fentanyl czar and commit $1 billion to patrolling our 5,000-mile long border to stop the 1% of fentanyl that's coming into the States from the north. Claudia Sheinbaum promised 10,000 troops to the border, which is something that was agreed to in 2021, something that we've already agreed to. So we just said that we're just going to do the thing that we were already doing. Trump backed off the tariffs only to completely renege on the deal, and now he's putting on tariffs on steel and aluminum, which that now affects my hometown. A bunch of contracts are getting canceled. Things are probably going to get real bad in my city now. So any deal with Trump isn't worth the paper it's written on. Yeah. So now this is from Ken Klippenstein. Trump proposes trilateral agreement with China and Russia to mutually draw down military budgets by 50%. He wants to talk to let's just play this clip here.
One of the first meetings I want to have is with President Xi of China, President Putin of Russia, and I want to say, let's cut our military budget in half. And we can do that. And I think we'll be able to do it.
I mean,
they said shit like that
Let's
with
do that,
Reagan,
but-
though.
Yeah,
with
really?
Gorbachev.
It's never gonna
not
happen.
going to happen.
No,
Oh,
no,
yeah.
don't get your hopes up. Any moron who thinks that Trump is like a lesser evil or anything, it's all
No.
dog shit. It's all complete dog shit. That there is nothing that Trump has done or said in his entire political career.
Yeah, this is the shit that would get him killed. Like
he called for an
would...
increase in their nuclear weapons in his first term.
It's empty rhetoric completely.
Yeah,
Right.
Like if he actually did this would be like, you're getting a magic bullet coming your way. Like,
yeah, you think Raytheon and Bechtel and the military industrial complex? Trust me, they'd find they wouldn't miss this.
Now, the only people who would take this seriously would be the American Chauvinist Party, MLM.
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, this is, like I said, it's just lip service. You know, this is like he would not stop a contract with Saudi Arabia over like building, like after they killed Khashoggi. Like, oh no, this is more important. Like, I know this is bad for like freedom of speech and journalism, and but no, I'm gonna keep it going for this shit. So no, my God, I mean, interesting it is, but I think I said that doesn't show strength. Really, if he's doing this whole, we're going to be hard power, but now you want to cut the military, because they are realizing this isn't working anymore, and they're going bankrupt from this. So, hey, nice lip service.
So moving on, I want to talk about the ceasefire between. We haven't talked about Gaza in a while on the show.
Ah, yes, that's right.
So the fragile ceasefire between Israel and Hamas, now at this point 3 weeks old, is at serious risk of collapse in the face of Donald Trump's recent statements in which he proposed that the United States take control of Gaza and forcibly relocate its population. This call for ethnic cleansing has drawn widespread condemnation. Moreover, it casts doubt on the prospects of any long-term truce after a regional conflict in which Israel has massacred 46,600 Palestinians and at least 3,500 Lebanese people. Now, this is a gross underestimation.
Big time.
We read something on here a few months ago that suggested it's closer to 200,000. A clip that we played at the beginning of tonight's episode is this clip here.
How many people are you thinking about?
All of them. I mean, we're talking about probably 1,000,007 people, 1,000,007, maybe 1,000,008. But I think all of them. I think they'll be resettled in areas where they can live a beautiful life and not be worried about dying every day.
So 1,000,007, 1,000,008. That's what Trump estimates is how many people are left in Gaza. I
think that was a slip. I think he just let the real count.
That might actually be the real count. I bet you that whatever's left of their intelligence apparatus, they could have very well killed 500,000 people. You don't go home to rubble like this and expect to live, healthy, and it's to say nothing of the disease and stagnant water and being directly exposed to the elements.
And then the war happened, and then that was it. Yeah, they had stagnant water before this too.
Oh God, 98% of the water was undrinkable before everything went down, and it's so 46,000 death toll count. No way, it's probably minimally 10 times that. And I think Trump knows that, and he probably let it slip.
Yep.
So 5 hostage prisoner exchanges have taken place under the truce. Hamas has accused Israel of repeatedly violating other key aspects of the agreement. I don't know if you guys saw any of the footage of hostages getting released. The hostages held by Hamas are
pretty healthy.
They're very well fed. They have nothing. They almost never go to the media. The media is not allowed to interview them because what they have said and what has leaked is like, no, I was treated with a lot of respect. The soldiers would throw their bodies on top of mine to protect me from gunfire and shrapnel. Meanwhile, the Palestinian prisoners being released by Israel are sexual abuse, starvation.
Emaciated,
there's these skeletons that are hobbling out of these prisons. It's insane.
Yep, or raped to death, which has happened in many cases
and
too.
Well, they come out with like 1,000-yard stare. It's like there's something like broken in these people too. It's like the fucking whatever they went through is just unspeakable.
Yeah. And this is what you have our President Biden or Trump sitting next to the mass murderer Netanyahu. We talk about genocide and crimes against humanity, and Israel. We just overlook. We're going to overlook that one. Really?
Yeah.
Jesus God Almighty. No, this is disgusting. All these people. The revolution can't happen soon enough. Oh, God.
So I got a list here. Leaders of Hamas, they've publicly detailed all the outrageous ways that Israel has abused, ignored, and neglected the ceasefire agreement. The agreed number of gas trucks let in their day is only 25% of the agreed upon number. The agreed upon age trucks is 75% of the agreed upon number. The number of people allowed to leave for emergency surgeries and medical treatment is only 15% of what Israel agreed to. 10% of the tents have been allowed in. 0% mobile homes have been allowed in. Israel's 10 days late to negotiate round 2 of the ceasefire. Israel shot and killed Palestinians daily in violation of the ceasefire. Israel is publicly stating they will start the genocide back up after they get their hostages back. And Trump and Israel officially saying their plan is to purchase Gaza and remove all Palestinians. So for some reason, this isn't going well, and it's 100% on Israel's fault.
Yeah.
So Hamas has announced a suspension of further hostage releases until Israel complies. Netanyahu has responded, saying Israel will resume military operations in Gaza unless all hostages are released by noon on Saturday. So at the time of recording, it is Thursday, February 13th. So we'll see how that goes.
They killed a bunch of them. Did they count those? You probably killed half of them.
Yeah, how many hostages are dead just from
because of
bombardment?
No shit. So they're gonna make we didn't get them all. We're gonna start dropping 2,000-pound bombs again. There we go.
Trump suggested using U.S. aid as leverage to force Egypt and Jordan to accept Palestinian refugees, threatening to cut off funding if they refuse. So his blatant disregard for Palestinian sovereignty and the region's stability has only deepened the crisis, emboldening Israel's war machine. So, I mean, off the top of my head, I can think of a couple problems with that.
I was just going to have a few too. Yeah.
Right.
This is pushing them more away from the United States, and more towards Russia, Iran, China. I see a rift happening. If Trump's going to keep this up, he better not touch that military budget, because he's going to need, if we're not doing soft power, you're going to need a lot more soldiers. So, a lot more soldiers and a lot more bombs. So this is bullshit. 50% cut in military budgets. Not with this bullshit.
Are they really that stupid? They're going to send American soldiers into Gaza. It's gonna be a bloodbath.
Yeah.
Here's the thing: is when you ask yourself who won in this conflict. I mean, 90% of Gaza's buildings have been destroyed. 500,000 people are likely dead or missing. But there was no reduction in number of Hamas fighters.
Yeah, they've probably gained more people out of it.
They probably recruited more. Yeah,
and they got a next generation. You killed my entire family. What am I going to do? Yeah.
Alongside the near daily carnage that I see on my feed, I also see video of children playing and dancing in the streets. And I'm like, man, I wish I had 1% of the fucking audacity and will and courage of these people. It is astounding.
Right. Also, one thing pointing out too, which we kind of overlooked, but Lebanon and Hezbollah, they turned, even though they had that pager attack and everything, Israel got repulsed. That wasn't just a bunch of people with homemade bombs. They fought back, hold them to a standstill, and then they had to do a ceasefire. So that being the case, it showed you that Israel really is weakening. 2 years, 15 months of constant warfare has wrecked their economy. All the soldiers, they have a lot of drafting. This isn't good for them. They're going to try to rebuild, but if they're going to try to restart war again, I don't see that going over very well for them. My 2 cents.
So meanwhile, Arab leaders such as Saudi Arabia's crown prince, who secretly wishes for normalization with Tel Aviv, Egyptian President Abdul Fattah al-Sisi, continue their business as usual approach with Washington despite public outrage across the Arab world. Jordan's King Abdullah met with Trump in Washington while other key regional figures prepare for talks with him in the coming days. Their complicity highlights the reality that Arab governments, while paying lip service to Palestinian rights, have long been willing to watch the genocide unfold as they maintain their ties with the United States. And this was a good paragraph coming up too. Even the Iranian regime seems to be willing to negotiate with the U.S. in the face of Trump's latest maximum pressure sanctions. Its regional role has been weakened due to Israel's beheadings of key organizations of the Axis of Resistance and the collapse of Assad's regime in Syria. No matter what the Ayatollah says about his commitment to Palestine, his main priority is maintaining the hegemony of Iranian capital. In that sense, the Iranian regime has no problem compromising with imperialism when it serves their interest.
Yeah, that is right about Syria too. So Good point.
Well, we killed all the socialists in Iran, so
Yeah, hey, way to go. Thanks, Stalinists. Yeah.
And in Saudi Arabia too, back in the day.
Yep. Right.
I was just love that. Just every once in a while, I remind people this is the Trotskyist podcast. So just mutter under your breath. Thanks, Stalinist.
Yep. We have to do that. Okay. Yep.
The crisis in Gaza is not only a humanitarian disaster, but a consequence of imperialism in the Middle East, which relies on racist oppression and Zionism to divide and conquer. That's why the oppression of Palestinians is not an accident, but a necessity for U.S. dominance over a crucial geopolitical hub. Clearly, Trump's vision of America first is another way of saying that Palestinians will be last. At the same time, the so-called two-state solution, the proposed liberal alternative to the total subjugation of the Palestinians, remains a mirage. For decades, the solution has been used to delay and deflect from the reality that Israel has always been a capitalist, settler colonial state created to defend the interests of imperialism. That was another thing that Trump had said is like, oh yeah, we're going to build these big, beautiful homes for all the Palestinians. And if I was a liberal, I'd be like, well, why can't you do that at home? We have
that's a great idea. Why don't we do it here?
Homelessness in the United States went up 18% under Biden. What are you doing for us?
Fucking Christ.
Oh shit. The price of rent is like $2,000 minimum. Maybe build some of that around here, you dumbass, but okay. Yep. Yay, Zionism.
Well, you remember when excuse me, Anthony Blinken was like on some show or something, and he was like, well, the thing is we can't have a Palestinian state because the U.S. would defund what was it, like all the UN like food aid programs or something. He was like, yeah, that's the policy of the U.S. is that if Palestinians get a state, we're going to defund all the fucking food aid around the world. And I was like, oh, so you were never fucking serious about this at all. And it's like, that's the thing is like, a Biden guy let that slip, but it's like Trump just comes out and says it. It's like, but it's all the same fucking project.
So Trump's latest provocations, the Israeli war machines, brutality, and the Arab leaders' complicity all underscore a crucial point. Liberation will not come from bourgeois governments. The only sectors who are genuinely interested in rooting out the exploitation and oppression that Palestinians face are other workers and oppressed people, particularly the Arab working class that sees the Palestinian cause as a rallying cry against the centuries-old imperialist domination of the region. It's essential to have a perspective for overthrowing the ruling classes that benefit from war and exploitation. A socialist Palestine as part of a socialist federation of the Middle East, free from Zionism, U.S. imperialism, Iran's regional ambitions, and Arab regimes, remains the only viable path to Palestinian self-determination. As Trump, Netanyahu, and their allies escalate their war, the urgency to organize and mobilize has never been greater. The U.S. bipartisan regime fears nothing more than another international solidarity movement where students and workers, Jewish and Arab activists, and people from countries all over the world join their forces to denounce the 77 years of Zionist occupation. That's why Trump has also doubled down on his offensive against pro-Palestine activities at universities. Fighting back against repression and for our right to protest here in the belly of the beast is a key part of the fight for a world where Palestinian liberation is not just a slogan, but a reality. And that comes to us from Left Voice. So great article there.
Yeah. I mean, it's messed up that like now Trump is going after people who protested the Palestinian genocide.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, if a liberal had done this, like there'd be more outrage, but but he does it and it's like, yeah, okay, well, I mean, it's just, oh my God. I don't know. This is the dumbest reality.
Is the movement, because like there was all these college protests and Palestinian solidarity movements, is the movement demoralized with the election of Trump? Because it seems to have lost its
it's been 15 months.
I think they've been muzzled by their fucking universities. Like I think I don't know. I've heard of things popping up here and there, and I think they're just immediately snuffed out. But although there have been protests, like there have been off of college campuses, there have been protests, and there's zero media coverage because people are going around now like, why is no one protesting Trump on the fucking Gaza thing? It's like, well, they are. It's just you're just not looking.
It's all well. First of all, like the people who were saying like, why aren't you protesting Trump, are the people who didn't protest Biden.
Yeah.
Because they didn't give a shit at all.
Right.
And they proved it over and over again for 15 months. So we shouldn't take them seriously because they didn't care about it, and they don't care about it now. They just want to use it to go after the mythical third party that actually didn't cost them the election. And it wouldn't, even if the third parties had gotten the strength, it wasn't their responsibility to win the election for Democrats. So let's leave that aside. These people are hypocritical assholes. You scratch a liberal, you get a fascist. These people don't care about Palestine. They like the idea of Zionists like massacring lots of Palestinian kids. And I think also 15 months is a long time for sustained activism. There are ebbs and flows to this. There's the fact that even though there's all kinds of stipulations we could make about it, the ceasefire was announced, and I think it's understandable to a certain degree like why people be like, okay, maybe we can step back a little bit. We don't have to keep up the pressure, even though there's still, the apartheid regime and whatnot. And again, sometimes it takes people a bit to take their breath. And, Trump came in and, the rhetoric has been very strong, even if the actions have been mixed, to say the least. So it may take time for people to orient and for things to pick up again.
I also wanted to chime in about kind of what we were talking about earlier about protests and like how effective are protests ultimately and the sort of shortcomings with that. And, it gets back to the point that like, until we have a stronger labor movement that can actually use leverage to do it, like they can just ignore us. And that's the unfortunate truth, especially with Trump, because they don't care about the optics at all. You know what I mean? And but yeah, it's a good thing to remember that we do have weapons in our tool chest. They're just rusty.
Exactly. I mean, the thing is also, we don't have an actual socialist or mass communist party that can stand in opposition to any of this at all. That's what we don't have. I mean, even if they were, socialist and communist parties can usually punch above their weight on gaining influence because you can tie a party to a movement. That's a very successful thing to have those two things merge together. Like Shama Sawant, she got elected because of the $15 an hour movement, in Seattle. You need a tie into it. And, and I'll not to get ahead of another article I'm going to read, but, the failure of the U.S. left to really go against the war effectively between Ukraine and Russia to be anti-war was filled up by the weird right, the Jimmy Dores of the world. That those weirdos got the anti-war thing, and you had some shameful DSA. I'm looking at you a little bit, but not all of you, but a lot of you.
No, you can look at all of them. They voted for funding the Ukraine war.
Yeah.
They haven't been kicked out.
Right. That's the whole thing. So DSA, and like I said, we're getting ahead there, but that void is being filled up by the right. The anti-interventionists, even though Trump is not anti-war, he has the mantle of being anti-war, which is bullshit. You still fund all the wars. He passes the biggest military budget in history. Like, he's not anti-war, but that's where the mass socialist and communist parties need to fill in that gap because they're taking it over and they're getting false credit for it.
Yeah, it's like, that's the thing. Like, we don't have a communist or socialist party, which means like that institutional memory doesn't exist. And don't get me wrong, like when you have like all the mass protests that erupt, whether it's over George Floyd or Palestine, that's good.
Right.
But you should be able to coordinate them to really provide direction and program. And I'm not faulting any protester for that. I'm not Bob Avakian. I don't have that exalted vision. But I will say that's the failure of us on the left, the communist left, to not have a party there. And unfortunately, there's been noble efforts, but right now, if you're to say like what on the horizon is, I can't tell you. I think there's still noble efforts going on, but we don't have the type of party that could really sustain this and really provide coordination. And that's terrible. And that's like, if we're going to ever like advance beyond where we are in the US, we need to make steps towards building that organization.
Yep.
100%. Yeah. So
I will say there's been a lot of rejuvenation and refocusing of energy against ICE because when some historians say when imperialism abroad fails and collapses, fascism comes home to roost or something like that. Fascism is imperialism coming home to roost is one way to put it. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that, but we do see the ramping up of effort we actually see increased government funding and activity in certain aspects. The rounding up of undocumented immigrants, children are getting kicked out. People have been here for decades are getting kicked out.
Yeah. They still haven't beaten Biden's record though.
No,
Biden and Obama, the all-time
deporters in chief. There we are.
Deporters in chief. They built the cages. They deported millions of people.
Yep. Obama didn't shut down Guantanamo Bay, and now Trump's using it to put migrants in it. Way to go. See, they're failures. That's the whole thing. Like, there would be no rebuilding and displacement of the Gaza people if Biden and the Democrats didn't fund the genocide in the first place and send all the bombs. Like, and now the Republicans are the bad. I mean, they are. They're, it's just like wrestling, like it's all scripted. They act like they hate each other, but behind the scenes, they get along and they do the same shit. That's all it is.
This is their exact ideology. It's just that in public, the Republicans are 1% worse than the Democrats, and
right.
And all of a sudden, it's like, oh, yeah, well, yeah, now you have to take the fight to the streets. And like,
yeah,
no, where the fuck were you 15 months ago?
Right. They may be different on domestic policy here and there, but foreign policy, it's lockstep. Like, they vote for all the same wars. They fund all the same groups. They might be quabbling a little bit about this or that group and whatever, but did like any of them go like, we're no longer going to be funding Al Qaeda in Syria? Is that, I mean, I know they use a different name now, but like, that's who they're funding, Al Qaeda in Syria to do this shit. We're going to cut off the funding to, like, if you're going to do Ukraine, then like, all right, they were trying to make, well, how about nothing goes to the Nazis? Nope. I'm sorry, the ultra nationalists. I keep using the wrong term. No,
so nothing goes to anyone in Ukraine then.
All right, there is maybe a third front out there, some of the moderate rebels that exist somewhere, but
Speaking of Syria too, like I just saw a headline that I guess Israel's building military bases now in the Golan Heights region, like, and the rest, like they basically annexed a whole bunch of land after the Syrian government fell, and they're like, oh, we're just temporarily. It's like they're not going anywhere. So yeah, fuckers.
And I will say, shout out to the working class who kicked out the Nazis off that bridge in Cincinnati.
Oh Lord, that was wonderful!
My heroes.
Yeah.
Complete shout out. The energy hasn't gone away. Is what I want to say. People are mad, and we're getting less and less tolerant of these pricks.
Yeah.
Even though they have the power, people will fight back.
It's not televised,
That's why they running game on our lives, but they got me fucked up. They got me fucked up. They got me fucked up. And Elon, we know exactly what that was, bro. They got us fucked up. They got us fucked up. They got us fucked up. And Elon, we know exactly what that was. You can buy my mosque, but you can't buy faith. You can't kill people, resistance grows in the wake. And while our president sends billions to Israel safes, ethnic cleansing's never gonna make Israelis feel safe. More blood, more weapons, more money, more oppression, more hate, more fear, more walls, and more settlements. The colonizer just spoke to us at the White House. What we said was gonna happen is happening.